Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So it is that time once again to take a look at the biggest changes coming into the next patch 7.13. There's going to be a whole bunch of changes coming, especially a lot of buffs to several champions, so keeping track of the champions that got buffed and which ones may potentially be suddenly OP in the next patch is very important. On top of that, there's a somewhat teaser that actually got removed off of the PPE, which is somewhat interesting, which can provide us additional info as to what kind of content may potentially be upcoming to League of Legends. So as usual, if you guys end up enjoying this video, then definitely hit it with that like button to show your support. But without much further ado, let's get right into the biggest changes for patch 7.13. So the very first thing that I want to talk about is, like I said, there has been a teaser put onto League of Legends PvE server. Now, unfortunately, it has been removed about a week and a half, so I mean, it kind of suggests that it was put there accidentally, and it still sort of teases us or even kind of leaks us some new information. Now, the file name was or is as follows: sg_skybox_a.dds. Now, .dds essentially just means that it is an image file. The capital SG most likely stands for Star Guardian, because as you see on this image right here, the two are pretty similar in just the visuals, the colors, and all that good stuff. So this may be a teaser to some Star Guardian event coming up, maybe some kind of new map similar to what they did with the Thresh, kind of, you know, having a full game mode about that. So I mean, that is definitely a possibility, but regardless, there seems to be somewhat of a Star Guardian teaser or leak or whatever you want to call it that will be coming up to League of Legends, maybe next patch on the PvE server or the one after that. But regardless, let's get into the actual changes happening to the patch, specifically to the champions and even items, and the first of which we're going to be talking about is going to be Galio. Now this is going to be a nerf and a buff, because Tank Galio has actually been nerfed, while AP Galio, or actually building more offensively on him, has actually been buffed. You can see that because, well, the base armor has not only been lowered, but the AP ratio on his Q has been increased, even though the base damage on it has been decreased to a decent amount actually, especially if you max the ability first. But on top of that, the ultimate has actually had its AP ratio also increased, so you can see going Tank Galio, playing him top lane, or just building tankiness even mid lane isn't going to be as strong. But if you do opt out for that extra AP damage and the AP ratio, his Q has actually been increased by 15%, which is quite a bit, and it will definitely scale much better. Following this, we actually have somewhat of a surprising buff coming to Gnar. Now, Gnar is either a champion that is exceptionally strong in the top lane and beats almost every single champion because of his nature and just the way his kit works, being a ranged champion into a melee champion, outzoning people and all that good stuff, or being absolutely useless, which he currently is, and is just flat out of the meta. Well, the buff is as follows. The Q damage on his mini form, so whenever you throw the boomerang, has been increased, and it's been increased by a decent amount, assuming you level it first. But on top of that, the E on his crunch, the Mega E, has actually been increased in its range, which is also pretty damn good. So this just gives Gnar not only just more zoning potential technically in his mini form, but it also gives his Mega form, when he dashes in, or I guess jumps in, just more engage potential. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this is going to be enough to bring Gnar back into the meta, but I won't be surprised if suddenly people start playing him and suddenly he's actually really strong. Next up, we also have a buff coming over to Kindred. Now, I've talked about Kindred for several patches now, and I mean, ever since her rework, or I guess their rework, they haven't really been all that prominent, right? They haven't been as successful as many, I'm sure, hope they would be, or at least if you play Kindred. So several buffs have been coming to this champion, and another one is here yet again. The first buff is going to be related to the hunts. Now, it's going to work as follows. The first 4 successful hunts increase Kindred's range by 75, which is still as per normal, but now it'll only take every 3 successful hunts rather than 4 after the first 4 to increase their attack range by a further 25. So they have lowered the amount of hunts required from 4 to 3 after the first 4 initially have already been completed to continue increasing the range. But there's still more, because the W, Wolf's Frenzy, the current percent health damage per mark, has been increased from 0.5% to 1%, which obviously is essentially double. On top of this, mounting Dread, the E ability, has also had its damage increased by 20 at every single rank. Now, if I had to personally guess, I don't think this is a buff that's worthy enough to bring Kindred truly back into the meta, but I mean, I definitely could be wrong. There's only one way to find out. Next up, let's talk about some changes happening to cannon. Now, this is going to be similar to Galio, where it's a buff and a nerf. It's going to be a nerf to the attack speed 80 cannon being played in the top lane with the Bork, with the Runan's Hurricane, and then things like Frozen Mallet and etc. But in retrospect, it's actually going to be a buff to AP cannon, and here's exactly what they're doing. So the passive values have been changed on the W to be from total AD to base plus bonus AD. So obviously you actually need AD items, not just attack speed like Bork and Runan's, to actually have this ability to do damage if you opt out for the AD cannon build, plus AP. The AD ratio has also been changed from 80% total AD at rank 5 to just 60% bonus AD, again needing actual AD items to make it scale on AD cannon. And on top of this, the W now has not only a 30% AP ratio, but also some base damage added. But to make things even better for AP cannon, the Lightning Rush, which is his E ability, has had its AP ratio also increased by a whopping 20%. So I honestly believe that this may definitely go from AD cannon being essentially just not that good anymore and probably rarely played, if at all even, to AP cannon potentially actually being a very good pick, especially in the mid lane and probably top lane still. So this is definitely one to watch out for. Next up, let's quickly talk about Khazix. Now, I did mention Khazix earlier when I made my early look into the next patch video, and I talked about how Khazix's damage on his Q ability, just the base damage itself, is definitely lower, but the ratio on it has been increased, and also it has increased damage to isolated targets by 15%. And on top of this, the stealth duration on his ultimate has been increased very slightly, and also the evolved form of it as well. Essentially, this means that this is going to be most likely an overall buff for Khazix, because you only lose 10 damage, so your early game will be weaker, but his late game and even his mid game will most likely be stronger. And if you're really good at Khazix and you know how to play him, you'll be able to abuse his ultimate's increase in stealth duration even better, and that much more. So all in all, definitely gonna be a buff to Khazix, though it may hurt his clear speed by just a little bit. Following this, there's also going to be a buff happening to Malachi. I mean, there's just buffs literally everywhere in this patch. The base health has actually been increased on the champion, which is always a good thing, especially in the laning phase, and his ultimate, Nature's Grasp, has not only had its cooldown lowered per rank all the way by 20 seconds by rank 3, but the range on this ability has also been increased flat out regardless of the rank of the ultimate by 500. Now this is somewhat of an interesting change to his ultimate, increasing the range. I mean, I feel like the range on it already was quite big. I mean, it's been going quite a distance. Instead, maybe increasing the width or even maybe the speed of the ultimate would have been a better buff. The range, don't know if that'll actually affect a whole lot, but definitely keep in mind that the snare duration on his ultimate is proportionate to how far the ultimate has also traveled before hitting the target, so I'm assuming this may mean that his ultimate may snare for that much longer. Following this is a very quick buff happening to Poppy's Q, where the enemy's max health damage has been increased from 7% all the way up to 8%. I mean, not the biggest difference in the entire world, nor will it change a whole lot in the current meta, but a buff is still a buff. Then we also have a buff happening to Rek'Sai, which I somewhat disagree with because I actually don't think Rek'Sai is all that bad at the very moment, but regardless, her ultimate, Void Rush, has had its bonus AD ratio increased by 15%. Definitely making it much more tempting to try and build just more glass cannon on the champion and building her truly like an assassin. Then we also have some changes, or essentially a rework happening to Shaco's E, where the base damage on it has actually been increased by 45 rank 1, but as you level it, it'll actually decrease by rank 5. The ratio on this ability for the AD has also been changed from total AD to 120% bonus AD by rank 5. The damage type has been changed to physical, and the way it executes its target has also been changed to now deal up to 50% bonus damage based on the missing HP of the target. So I still believe that this is going to be a hit to AP Shaco. I mean, you can look at it both ways. You can see it as a buff because, well, now itemizing against this will be that much more difficult. But this also does mean for AP Shaco that if you get a Void Staff or any penetration whatsoever, this will not affect your E ability whatsoever. Next, we also have a buff happening to Trundle, which I did talk about in my previous video, and I feel like this is going to be pretty big because Trundle not only can now use his Q on turrets, which makes his split pushing pressure that much more, but his W now offers him bonus increased healing and regeneration from all sources by an extra 5%. Now, it seems like they have removed the other buff Trundle had on his Q, which increased the amount of AD he stole and gained from his target respectively, because I guess that was just a little bit too much, and I do agree that that was a little bit overboard, but regardless, he can still use his Q on turrets now, which is pretty good regardless. There's also a slight nerf happening to Xayah, where the Q lockout, which is the time you can't attack while the Q is firing, will actually scale down with attack speed so that it is lower when you get more attack speed and is at its max value in the laning phase, so prior to when you get attack speed. I have to say, this champion is insanely strong at the very moment. Xayah is easily one of the better ADCs, so definitely want to watch out for her. There's also going to be somewhat of a rework happening to Abyssal Mask, where the total cost has actually been increased by 100, the build path has also been changed, the magic resist has been lowered, but the HP offered has been increased. It no longer gives you bonus health regeneration, but instead not only does it give you 300 mana, but on top of this it has a completely new passive effect. It is called Eternity and it does the following. 15% of damage taken from champions is gained as mana. Spending mana restores 20% of the cost as health. And last but not least, the SKT skins should be coming out in this patch as well, and my goodness do they look good. I'm personally going to be getting the Sindra one and the Jhin one most likely because I just think they look fantastic, even though I still feel like Blood Moon Jhin might be better, but you can let me know down below which of the skins that you like the most and which one you may be getting. But that is going to be about it for this video, guys. There you have it, a whole bunch of changes, an insane amount of buffs, even something that was really cool being the teaser that was removed off of the PBE, suggesting at some potentially new skins or some kind of new event or gameplay coming to League of Legends, probably revolving around the Star Guardian theme and or skins. But that's going to be about it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, definitely hit it with that like button, subscribe if you haven't, share with your friends as well, and I'll see you for the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.